back to the show. Last week was National Mental Health Awareness Week, and of course we celebrated here in Ottawa the incredible things that people are doing at a gala on May the 5th last week. One of the most incredible organizations, I would say internationally, is DIFD, and they won a community award at the Champions of Mental Health Gala. Here to tell us more about it, we're joined by Nicole Loretta, VP of Communications and Partnership at DIFD at the Royal. Welcome to the show, Nicole, and congratulations to everybody involved. This is an incredible team effort that DIFD, as I said, it's become one of those things that starts grassroots and has just become a topic of conversation not only in North America, but it's spreading, isn't it?
No, it's spreading, and I think it just transcends the community spirit, and I think the fact that we could talk about mental health openly is a good thing. So.
Well, it also reflects the conversations people are having a lot more openly, and really talks about the need, right? Like if it's taking off like that, it's because there was a hole.
Exactly.
Right?
There's a necessity for it. Let's talk about DIFD and its beginnings and its mission.
So it started off obviously because of tragedy of Darren's death, but it was also at a time where I think people were starting to ask a lot of questions. Parents were trying to figure out, well, how do we teach, how do we talk about those things with our kids and the youth as well? Because we run the Is It Just Me program, and way back then I thought I was really smart calling it Is It Just Me, but trying to deal with the stigma issue. And then we found out that it actually resonates with kids because they actually, and I call them kids, but I mean, because my kids are like 22, so to me, they're kids. But we're reaching them in a way to talk about their mental health, but we're doing things a little differently because obviously we can talk about the risk factors and what puts people, at risk for suicide or for any mental illness, but at the same time we're trying to focus also on the protective factors. How do you have good mental health?
Right.
So we've kind of, we work at two levels, and I think maybe that's why it resonates within the community, and also when you see kids that, come from good families, have, stable lives, or active in all kinds of sports, and then, have mental illness, or do not report a mental illness. And I think a lot of that is what's happening, and I think that's why people want that information and want, evidence-based information.
So I think that one of the things you were talking about in the green room was the importance of families talking about it too. And in my own family, my brother hanged himself when he was 23, and then my stepmom's ex-husband committed suicide as well. And how she talked about it, like she kept it as a secret, and told the kids that their dad had a heart attack. And my approach was like, no, I'd like from the moment you give them little bits of information how to understand it, but it's a really difficult conversation to have with a child or somebody in your family. How do you approach it?
Well, I think to be as open as possible, because I mean, until the 60s it was actually a crime to actually die by suicide, and I think we don't fully understand it. It's a very complex phenomenon in the brain. There's brain circuits, there's all kinds of issues in the brain that actually leads to suicide. It's not just something, that people say all of a sudden, I want to end my life. But it is to be able to have just that conversation in terms of how they're feeling, because often people don't report it. And I know when we do the studies with youth, because we do ongoing studies, actually Canada, France, and in a large study where we see suicide ideation quite high, but it's looking at if you can encourage people when they have those thoughts to actually get help, because we saw in some of the research that suicide ideation to the actual first attempt, sometimes it actually is within a year. So if we can actually encourage, and some of the programs we run in schools, the early intervention program, you won't know, but then the next year you hear kids come back to some of our counselors and saying, special mental health workers, and they're saying, you know what, last year I did think about ending my life, and I didn't. And these are some of the high performers. So that's what's very encouraging. If we could actually start putting a number on the number of people that are actually saved by conversations or actually having that support, and I think that makes a difference. So the fact that, even if they're young, and I know my son at the time, he was roughly Darren's age, and, kept asking, well, how are you feeling? And it's like, yes, Mom, I know you're feeling, but it's a good message for them as well, because you can't ask it enough, because then they know that you know and that you're there. So I think that's the important message. And if it's not family, then it's for friends. And we
I
always
was
tell
going to say that, Nicole. The importance of, oftentimes youth will share it with a friend, with a peer, and then it stops there. It doesn't go anywhere because there's, the trust involved. If you've shared this really incredible secret with me, part of the awareness that DIFD is doing is making sure that you share that with somebody else. You're a better friend for sharing it than you are for keeping it to yourself, right?
Exactly. They used to say, save the friend, not the friendship. And a lot of the young speakers that we have in the program say that directly to the youth, saying, I asked, one of them was actually saying, I asked my brother not to tell the parents, and that's the worst thing he could have done.
Right.
So when they hear it directly, then they realize the impact that it has. So I think that, like, we actually see, mobile crisis teams and some of the hotlines actually increase after the program, because we say, you don't wait 6 months or 2 years, to go see a doctor to fix that broken arm or that leg. But with mental illness, we know sometimes it goes up 2 years before anybody actually reaches out for help.
Right. Well, and it's also the media awareness too, right? Like as a journalist, we never report on suicide because, there's all of that, and then there's the whole copycat thing, and, does it actually spark those sort of,
it's been a conversation, consistent conversation with media for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think the media reporting is getting much better, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, they always point out to the resources. So that being said, that's certainly a positive. And we're also trying to, equip the youth with some of the tools to say, what can I do? And that's where, one of the reasons we won the award was actually for our Healthy Minds app. And it's learning how to cope with stress and dealing with some of those emotions. So it does, help them say that there's different ways that they can
build resilience.
Yeah, build resiliency, take their health into consideration and doing
make
things
it a priority, not just the physical, but the mental health. Nicole, thank you so much, and congratulations to the entire DIFD at the Royal team. Doing incredible work. And speaking of resources, Nicole just mentioned resources available. The website is a fantastic resource, so we encourage you to visit the website, and of course you can follow them on social media as well. We'll be back with Rob Statham, I believe, from Groovy Grapes right after the break. Don't go anywhere.